to the very patient Senator Baldwin.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Madam Vice Chair. And thank you for appearing before our committee today. To many I represent and to me, this supplemental request is another example of this administration's misplaced priorities. Instead of spending tens of billions of dollars more for this president's war of choice in Iran, that both houses of Congress, I may add, have voted to end absent explicit authorization by Congress, we should be focusing on the needs of American families. We could invest this money to accelerate new cures and treatments for cancer and Alzheimer's. We could use it to help more families with rising home energy costs. We could use this funding to help more families afford quality child care. We could use this funding to help more kids get free school lunch. We could use this funding to restore health care for working families. We could use this funding to support our public schools and special education. This is a war of choice, and every dollar spent on this war is a dollar not spent helping families afford housing, health care, groceries, child care at home, investing in the opportunities for the American people. First, I want to express my condolences and my respect for the 17 American service members killed in this war since February, including 3 over the past few days.
17 service members killed since February, 3 of them in just the last few days. Not one of those 17 names has been matched to a vote that authorized this war. Senator Baldwin calls it, in her own words, a war of choice. A choice this Congress did not make, but a body count this Congress now owns. 17 flag-draped caskets. And the supplemental on the table today puts more soldiers on the same road.
Their lives are the price this country has paid for this war. The deadliest day for U.S. forces was on March 1st, when an Iranian drone struck an Army facility at Port Shueba, Kuwait, killing 6 soldiers and injuring more than 30 others, including soldiers from Wisconsin. Soldiers from the unit stationed at Port Shueba told reporters that the facility did not have adequate air defense capabilities. These soldiers and their families believed they were sent into harm's way without the defenses they needed.
And watch the Secretary's answer again. He greets the families at Dover. He moved 90% of the personnel off the target zone. He talks about bunkers and early morning repositioning. But notice what he never says. He never says Port Shueba had what it needed. He never denies the Washington Post reporting. He never apologizes. He pivots. That pivot is going to be the answer every time a soldier comes home in a box from this war, a moving sentence and no accountability.
Secretary Hegseth, what would you say to those soldiers and their families?
First of all, that we honor and recognize their sacrifice and what they've given. I've been in touch with at least one of those families on a regular basis and understand the pain of losing a loved one is unfathomable, which is why we greeted them at Dover, and we'll greet those again tomorrow. I would say in talking to Admiral Cooper, the CENTCOM commander, before all of this was undertaken, maximizing defensive capabilities, mostly by moving as many people as possible off the X, which we did in historic fashion, moving almost 90% of Americans in theaters off of where they could be a target, first of all.
So
bunkers that they would move into, early warning.
On Port Shueba. And I will quote from the Washington Post article of July 12th. Shueba, this is a quote, Shueba did not have any of the systems that would take down the one-way attack Shahed drones, and initial security assessments found that the base was not adequately protected, end quote. Soldiers at Port Shueba have also been quoted in news reports saying that requests for additional medical and drone defense systems were denied prior to the...
Read those two quotes next to each other. The Washington Post, July 12, drone defense requests were denied before the war began. The Secretary of Defense, this committee, today, he is not aware of a single defense request being denied at any level. Both of those statements cannot be true. Somebody is on the record, and somebody is lying. And the families of 6 dead soldiers at Port Shueba deserve to know which one it is.
Conflict with Iran beginning. Why were those requests denied, Secretary Hegseth?
I would confer with Admiral Cooper, but it's not a single drone or defense request denied at any level that I'm aware of. We did everything we could to move heaven and earth in every single location to protect every single American we possibly could.
An article from July 12th, Washington Post also quoted a soldier saying that the unit's request for an Eagles drone defense system was denied because of lack of assets. That's an end quote. U.S. Army Central has conducted an investigation into that attack. Do you commit to releasing the findings of that investigation publicly, yes or no?
We'll get you the status of that. I would argue if it was a resource constraint, that's precisely why we're having this hearing today, to speed up systems to the battlefield, to warfighters as fast as humanly possible. It's been too slow in the past. It needs to be faster. The reforms we're undertaking will do
the findings
that.
of that investigation publicly, yes or no?
I will work with Admiral Cooper to make sure it's handled properly. Yes, Senator.
Thank you. Secretary Hegseth, I traveled to Walter Reed Military Hospital and met with soldiers who were injured in that attack. What they told me confirmed what other soldiers have said publicly, that most of these soldiers injured in the attack did not receive proper medical care in Kuwait, in Germany, or during their initial days back in the U.S.
And then comes Walter Reed. Soldiers who survived the strike say they did not get proper medical care in Kuwait. They did not get it in Germany. They did not get it during their first days back home. Traumatic brain injury screenings, the kind of screening that catches the invisible wounds this country has spent 2 decades learning to recognize, never happened. The U.S. military has been fighting wars in the Middle East for 25 straight years. If our medical evacuation pipeline still fails the moment a real casualty hits it, that is not a logistics problem. That is a choice, too.
The U.S. military has been fighting wars in the Middle East for 25 years. Why was proper medical care not immediately available to these injured soldiers, and why were they not immediately screened for traumatic brain injuries?
I'm not taking issue with the characterization of individual soldiers, but I would argue that every effort was made to provide every level of medical care possible, understanding how CENTCOM
The
operates.
senator's time has expired.